Tweetle, Beaks, a Grecian story by Emilia, Moody. It was a beautiful day in the woods of ancient Athens. Elena the eagle was spending yet another day looking down from the nest at her friends playing below her. She could see Tess the turtle and Riley the raccoon racing over Egg Rock through the grassy fields and under the log of many colors, trying to avoid the many spots of mold and moss on the thick bark of the log. She could tell they were having so much fun. "Someday I want to be able to go down there with the rest of my friends," Elena said with a noticeable amount of hope in her voice. "Well, my little Tweetlebeaks," her mother responded, with the mother in her really shining through. "Someday you'll be able to fly if you just keep trying." With that, Elena took yet another attempt to jump out of the nest and somehow force her wings into the air just enough to gracefully glide across the sky. She thought maybe this time she would have success, but no, she was wrong. Once again, she disgracefully tumbles to the ground. You could almost hear the crunch of the beetles that cushioned her fall. She sat on the rough, dirty ground up until her mother swooped down and picked her up with a swift swoop and lugged her back to the nest. When back in the safety of the nest, her mother said, as she had every time she had failed to fly, "Well, try again next time." She could see her mom's unusually white wing and purple tail blowing in the wind. Of course, Elena believed her. She had to. It was her mom. But after all these times, she was actually starting to doubt her mom's prophecy. She glanced down to check on her so-called friends that were actually just some animals that lived below her tree that she frequently looked down to see. They seemed to be having the time of their life, cheering on Riley and Tess and debating who would win this crucial race. That night, Elena thought long and hard about the process of learning to fly and how long it would take. "Why take all the time to fly if my mom will just bring me food anyway?" she thought. Weeks passed, and Elena decided she was done trying, and she'd just lounge around the nest and relax, and food would be fed to her at mealtime. This all worked out until one day Elena's mom left the nest and never came back. She had heard lots of wolves howling that night. She couldn't sleep. In the morning she woke up starving. Her mom wasn't there to feed her. She had to learn fast. In the many hours after that, Elena worked as hard as she could to learn how to fly. Every time she would jump out of the nest and then crawl all the way back up to the tree and continue over and over again. Pretty soon she could get herself into the air, but she still hadn't got the graceful part down. Another hour went by. She had enough. She jumped out of the nest fiercely and closed her eyes. A couple of seconds passed, and she was wondering how she hadn't hit the ground yet. She opened her eyes, and to her surprise, I'm flying! Elena watched as the world rushed below her. She wondered how she would find her way back home, but that didn't matter. She glided and swung and flipped in twirls. "Yes," Elena said in disbelief. "I'm doing it." She paused when she saw another bird flying in the distance. She flew and flew closer and closer to the bird. Before she knew it, she could see another bird figure. "Mom?" Elena screamed. "Tweetlebeaks," her mom screamed in return.